and that's part of why he did what he did. To me, the most important question is he going to last these next 5 months, or actually more importantly until January 21st? Because if they get rid of him now, God knows who Trump will replace him with. If he replaces him with like Jared Kushner, I'm only half kidding. It might be that he then, when push comes to shove and we're after the election and Trump is lost, and he tells the defense secretary, we're not leaving. Well, apparently Esper would say, yes, you are, but the next guy might not.
Well, Jody McEnany was actually asked about whether or not Esper's days are numbered, and
I guess you
her
could join
answer,
that.
even though of course she's not as forthcoming as she should be, still did reveal a lot. Take a look.
Still have confidence in Secretary Esper?
So, not that I'm aware of in terms of expressing his opinion, and I wouldn't get into the private conversations that went on here in the White House. And with regard to whether the president has confidence, I would say if he loses confidence in Secretary Esper, I'm sure you all will be the first to know.
As of right now, he still does?
As of right now, Secretary Esper is still Secretary Esper.
Oh, there we go.
Should the president lose faith, we will all learn about that.
Yeah, so for like the moment being,
Enemy
Secretary
team
Esper
Garrosh
is still
get pulled out. I
Secretary
think
Esper,
I think
and
Murden would be a good pick here.
Murden will be the first
I'll
to
probably go Hammer build.
I'm not qualified for this.
Because that's right, like.
Well, I think he's saying something slightly different. First of all, Anakin's very
From order comes justice.
Okay, there's two hilarious parts of that. One is that statement, obviously, but the other is her saying, "Well, if you lose faith in Esper, you guys will be the
Good
first
luck,
to know."
Karen.
I think she's being literal.
She's an
Because
idiot.
it's not
It's
like,
a pain in
like
the
she's
ass.
been there a couple of weeks. She knows. Trump's not following any protocols.
Anytime you're ready.
Communications department. Get out of here. He's not gonna tell
He's
Kaylee
gonna tweet it.
you first. He's gonna tweet it.
Finally.
So she knows.
Enemy team,
She knows.
Rainer and Alarak.
What do I know, man? I'm
Okay.
just up here trying to do PR. I don't have any actual information. And you know he's going to tweet it the minute he's ready to go. And it is what it is.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.
The president held up the Bible at St. John's Church yesterday.
Lucio
I
and
just wish he
Titus.
opened it
Not
once
bad,
in a
not
while.
bad. But we need something.
Instead of brandishing it. If he opened it, he could have learned something. We're all called to love one another as we love ourselves. It's really hard work, but it's the work of America. Donald Trump isn't interested in doing that work. Instead, he's preening and sweeping away all the guardrails that have long protected our democracy.
Friendly team
Guardrails
Rainer or
that help
Ragnaros.
make possible
Lucio?
this nation's path to a more
what we
perfect
get.
union. A
They
union
still need a healer and
that constantly
probably
requires reform and
another ring.
rededication. And yes,
Or a system.
protest from voices that are mistreated, ignored, left out, or left behind.
I
But
hear
it is a
Oh, I
union.
need Zebo
The union was fighting
and
for.
Rengar.
And that's why I'm running.
Maybe a bloodlust.
Joe Biden
For that
speaking
Jimmy boy?
yesterday in Philadelphia.
You know, Mika, it's interesting.
We'll go
He's
pick
really
us.
talking about holding up the
I don't know if I really like this team.
and what we've seen over the past 24
There you go.
hours, condemnation
Right here.
from
It's
really
over.
across the
She's
political
so precious.
spectrum, from religious leaders, the Pope talking about
She's
the
so
protests
precious.
and looking at how things are going in the United States and saying you can't continue to turn a blind eye to what's going on in America.
So the friendly
and
team
claim
Murden,
to
Ragnaros,
protect
Tastar,
life.
Lucio, and Titus. The enemy team
Pat
Alarak,
Robertson
Jim Rainer,
last night,
Garrosh,
or yesterday
Zebo,
talking about critical
And Rengar.
the president's actions, saying he had to start showing.
Welcome to Heroes of the Storm. Get ready for battle, and don't
we're gonna
forget
do
your
Perfect
talent.
Storm,
He reads the
which
Bible
will
every day.
increase our Q by 5, but we're really just doing that so we can get the sledgehammer.
Bible like that. I've got to say, as a guy
Or
who
we'll do
raised in
300
Southern Baptist Church, who went to
350% more damage than non-heroic.
for first 21 years
So,
of my life.
yeah, I mean, I'll take that in a heartbeat.
The match begins in
Never saw anybody
10 seconds.
hoist a Bible forward as
Like
a
a product.
political prop. You
5,
the head of the church
4,
standing in front
3,
of saying,
We'll take this away, but that's all right.
1.
and that's
Let the
starting to show
battle
up, Mika,
begin.
and the polls, the polling coming out showing that the overwhelming majority of Americans are opposed by this president talking about when the looting starts, the shooting starts, talking about thugs constantly, clearing a path with tear gas. Yes, it was tear gas. And by the way, if you represent
looks like fucking Tychus dropped down, which is too bad.
If you represent us, stop lying to us about
What a
using
shame. What a
using tear
shame.
gas. We saw it. It happened. We all saw it in real time.
You did that to American citizens.
The global village saw people.
So they're waiting for Alarak
with
to
their heads
pull
thrown
into a
back
flip, yeah.
And their friends pouring water in their eyes. Garrett Hake yesterday talked about it as well. You used tear gas. You used tear
Someone
gas.
trying to be the meat.
You used pepper spray. You used rubber bullets.
Just kind of be right in the way.
To clash
Son of a bitch.
peaceful protesters. We've got the tape. It's all on tape, Marco Rubio.
Alright,
It's all on
I'll get some
tape.
HP. That'll be pretty
Republicans,
swell.
it's all on tape. We saw it
Tychus
happening
dropped.
in real time. Stop lying.
1 step back, 2 steps forward.
Revealed.
We're gonna need
And
Unstoppable.
so you actually have peaceful protesters.
Yeah,
who
that's a
were
good
there.
combo. That's a damn good combo.
Tear gas used
Who's that?
against them, brute force
109.
used against them, rubber bullets used against them. I'm so ashamed that an Australian cameraman and reporter were brutalized in the park, the president's park. Hit. Like, Australia, by the way, one of our closest and oldest allies, a country that has had their troops along our troops in foxholes for over 100 years. They have fought with us in every
They need to back up.
war. And yet, members of the press being targeted constantly.
Nope.
Constantly. Peaceful protests.
Good try,
being
Gary.
broken
Good
up.
try.
The president thinking he's proving a point. This law and I mean, for a photo op. Let's show this again, Mika. I just want to show these poll numbers and show.
Now that's
it's
all they're
not
doing.
working.
They're just waiting for
Not
that pull throw.
1968, and then somebody
Yeah,
said
we're gonna go for
if it
bruisers.
were
Absolutely.
1968, looking at the
Talent
parallels,
time.
Donald Trump would be
Bruisers.
in big trouble.
I shall
And
land
gotta
in a
say,
moment.
it was
I'm gonna need help.
That is not
surprising
my
to me.
fault.
Sledgehammer?
For the brutality surprising to me. The head of the Department of Defense, hey, James Mattis, you want to wake up from your slumber and stop worrying about offending somebody?
gun.
Because you're pissing off a lot of people, James Mattis. Your silence is pissing off a lot of people. We have a Secretary of Defense who actually said he thought that the president was going to inspect troops and they were going to inspect a bathroom.
I shall purge your evil from this
We
land.
should probably defend.
His worst excuse
Yeah, I think so.
since he said his dog ate his constitution. That is, it's despicable. If he were misled by that, by the President of the United States, then he should resign. Secretary of
almost
Sir, you should resign
That's a shame.
this morning. If you were used as a political plot, your military, Mr. Secretary, your military, the men and women of our military are being used as political props. And guess what? They're not good political props because we have separated civilians from the military for about 240 years, and it's worked out pretty well for us. If you think that a washed-up
Helping
reality
get,
TV show host
what they're
is
demon?
gonna
Yeah, they're
change
hell
that
spawn.
reality, let me show you these poll numbers. This is from
Alright,
Reuters
I'm gonna
yesterday.
heal up.
33% of Americans
We are able to hold, which is kind of nice, yeah.
support
I'm
the
gonna heal up.
chaos
Be warned,
This man
allies. I move to new
that's
ground.
spreading across America. When the looting starts, the shooting starts,
I'm gonna get this hippie.
calling protesters thugs as much as he possibly can.
We don't even really need to fight. We should just be right here.
And then again, Mika, You know, it's the low point
Nope,
of his
there's
presidency
Gary.
so far.
There's
a lot
Gary.
of people thought the low point of his presidency, and they said so, was a week or two ago when he was actually terrorizing a widower who was begging him to stop using his dead wife's memory to try to stage a political attack. And George Will.
Oh, we got him. Just barely, but we got him. Holy smokes, that was cutting it close. Nope.
Talents upgrade your
Engaged
hero
on
in a
that.
multitude of
The
ways.
light of the crystal arch shines
That was
on.
awesome. Holy smokes, that was close though.
We think that what we saw yesterday,
spooky.
the day before,
That's what
was
that
a
was.
low.
That was freaking
There is no low point.
This is the truth.
Alright, we're gonna try to get that gazebo. Ragnaros is heading bottom. Cool.
That is why
To me,
Republicans
mortals,
blindly
I
go
march for Hell's Gates.
Just a few.
for this. A few did. God bless them because they need to do that.
Enemy
Not only
down.
for the country, not only defend
Did I
their
get stuck?
Constitution,
Oh, I must have gotten hit by
for their own
Jim's
sake.
Q. Okay, that would make sense, yeah.
For the sake of their constituents, for their place in history. So they won't be seen
Oh, I'm just
as
gonna take
going
right out.
along with this
We damaged it, that's all that matters.
I must rest, heroes, but I will
Not bad.
return.
raw
Not
power
bad.
and just sheer stupidity. Raw power combined with sheer stupidity. That's what happened earlier this week. And Americans aren't buying it. Donald Trump is not playing
We almost got
three-dimensional
that for it.
chess. He's eating the chess pieces, and it's not going well.
So, along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have
Looks like
White
there's
House
gonna be a team
reporter
fight
from
down on
the
bottom.
Associated Press, Jonathan Lemire, NBC News, Capitol Hill correspondent, and host of KCDC on
We should have
MSNBC
somebody
on
on top.
Sunday nights,
Token.
Casey Hunt, and MSNBC contributor Shauna Thomas. Great to have you back with us, Shauna.
Willie, you look at these numbers from the Reuters poll. So many people have been saying that law and order would work for Donald Trump, that it's going to be just like 1968. Here's the problem. Donald Trump is the incumbent.
Ooh,
This is
Tychus
all
is
happening on
just
Donald
barely
Trump's
getting away.
watch. When he
I'm just gonna keep kind of
started talking about
holding him back to that.
people, the President of the United States is calling protesters thugs. It's ginning things up.
Engage
However,
carefully
even
or
when
make
the
a quick
doctors
escape.
tell him to cut it out,
Prepare
the
I tried to
folks
jump.
I will
cut
reach
it
your
out.
position
Republicans
shortly.
are telling him, some Republicans, to cut it out.
Looks like that bruiser camp's
It's
up.
not working. And the biggest surprise to me, Willie, is I know that they're stupid. A lot of these people around the president
Awesome
are stupid.
work.
That's
You
the only
earned
reason
that
they're
talent.
there. It's
Probably
'cause they
gonna
will
make
do
bigger
whatever he
groups.
tells them to
Oh,
do.
man.
What he didn't realize
Picked the
is
wrong
that
ability.
some of them are
Jeez,
so
Louise, that's a
stupid
shame,
that they
isn't
were
that?
actually congratulating themselves after Donald Trump started a riot in the president's park.
There is
in
no
Lafayette
escaping
Park,
my
so he could
justice.
have a photo op and awkwardly, weirdly, bizarrely hold a Bible like nobody has ever
looks like
held
we're gonna need to
a Bible
defend.
I must take up a new
in-
position.
in a political event.
Yep.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah, we're gonna
Holding
have
it
to
upside
defend.
down at one point. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. You can get any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.
Good work.
It's hammer time! I've met blood else tougher than you!
Whose idea was it? We've heard different reports that it might have been Ivanka's idea. It may have been Jared's idea. Whose idea
Killing a
was it?
hero grants a lot of XP and puts stress on our enemy.
Look at
They
the
got it, they
Marco.
got it.
Peaceful protesters.
Oh,
in
they got
the
it. All right,
President's
we're just
Park
gonna
in
keep defending, I
Lafayette
guess.
Square, and to beat up reporters and cameramen from Australia. To beat up
Rough one.
protesters,
Don't get
to
discouraged.
use
I just try to
tear
push
gas
him back.
Brutal
I was hoping to
assault.
knock him into
using these
Tychus.
techniques to brutalize all of these people. Also, the president
We got
can
top
fly across
cleaned
with
out,
the
though.
Secretary
Looks
of
like.
Defense. Here's the Australian crew getting.
Ilarac
beat
is
up
down,
for
which
standing there.
put him back down to
Those are
90 up.
allies, by the
So
way, jackasses. Those guys fought in real wars.
Tychus pushing in
We're in foxholes.
on Naziba. Naziba is falling, and Tychus is now pushing in on Gary. Ooh, very nice. Good job.
You're a disgrace. You're an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, at bottom. Keep an eye on the mini-map, and if we have to rotate up.
States won't do it. I certainly hope somebody in Washington, D.C., in an official position
nice, very
will
nice, very, very nice.
apologize
to the people of Australia.
Whose idea?
Yeah, looks like we got this one
and
too.
most loyal allies over the last 100 or so years. Again,
Good
fighting
job.
with us in every war. And this is how we treat their reporters. By the
We
way,
stand
they're treating our reporters that way
victorious.
too. It's disgraceful, but they sort of
I'm
things happen
probably
as
gonna go-
press enemies of the people
What is
for
that?
3
Bronze Beard
4
Rage?
years. Anyway,
Just so if we get taunted, I can heal off them.
so whose idea was all of this? Oh, gosh,
Let the burning hells
this idea
atone for
that
their
so
sins.
repulsed the majority of Americans.
And actually now,
12 hours trying to figure this out, and here's what I've learned. At the end of the day, many aides in the
if
White
I get
House
flipped,
are talking about walking
I've got
across
haymakers to
Lafayette Square.
go against
You
them.
had Kellyanne Conway, the counselor to the president, yesterday on the record talking to reporters saying the president
Okay,
wasn't
vote
aware
down,
of
but we
what
can
his
do
movements
this.
would do in terms of security. You hear a lot of aides saying they weren't fully informed, like Secretary
Yeah, what
Esper
a
is
fucking
saying,
flip.
about how this would all play out. But based on my conversations with some of the top people in the government and Congress, at the
Yep,
end
we're
of the
just gonna
day,
back right out.
this was President Trump's decision.
We should-
Did others talk about it in the Oval Office? Jared Kushner,
Be right here
Ivanka
for this.
Trump.
As soon as they're
Opus.
ready,
Yes,
spawns
they
should
did.
be ours.
Mark Meadows as well. But this was President Trump.
Swinging a miss, I guess.
No fear.
This is a
I
president
will return to
And I'm gonna have
face the
Haymaker ready,
demons
so-
of
telling governors
I
on a
swear
conference
this.
call and his aides that he wanted to dominate the streets,
Rotate up.
control the streets. They talked about the Insurrection Act, bringing the military into cities and states across this country, even if governors and mayors did not want the U.S. military there. This was
We don't
a
really care
president who all
about
day
these
Monday
pushing, we just don't
was
want them
thinking
pushing,
about
you know?
force, talking about force.
And
Titus
and
going in.
doing this to peaceful
we're gonna try to meet him.
protesters and to reporters. Also, he can walk across the street
There we go. Good job. Good
and
job.
awkwardly hold up a Bible. It is grotesque.
Yeah.
It's so. I don't care whether you're a Christian or not. Just read the red letters in the Gospels. This so goes against everything Jesus Christ taught.
Rainer has
Guy
fallen.
didn't read the patch notes.
I'm gonna try to.
Hold up that Bible
Son of a gun.
brutalizing peaceful protesters.
Nah, we don't need this. We don't need this.
Is really
Just
shocking.
back right out. We got 2
Wes,
picks. Good enough
as a
for us.
military
Yep.
man, let me ask you.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
If you were
We
shocked,
immortals shall
was
return
I,
before long.
seeing the Secretary of Defense in a photo op
Choose a talent.
in front of the church
We're gonna do
after
imposing presence.
these
Yeah, for
peaceful
Jim.
protesters had been brutalized.
Oh, he did go in.
because of
Yes,
the president's
I thought
plans.
he'd go bloodless, but
You know, there's a. I'm just coming up on my anniversary when I actually
I wasn't paying attention. That's
to
my
join
fault.
the United States Army.
I think that was a terrible idea either way.
I was
But
actually
Repent
17 years
before
old,
my
and I
wrath, demon.
looks like Bottom
And
is
the oath that
pushing
I
pretty
took
hard.
Said that I will solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Thank you, kindly.
What were the protesters doing except expressing their First Amendment right? What were the protesters doing besides exercising their constitutional right?
We
And so
should be
the
waiting
idea
for
that
what's this
my
face?
former unit, the 82nd Airborne Division, is now being activated and called in to potentially quell protesters who are exercising their constitutional right. It's absolutely
Looks like we won that. Holy smokes.
and it goes past the idea that it is against an open. It also goes the idea that it's not effective. So if we think about what is our goal,
I don't like that. I don't like that. Nope.
If the goal
Write it
is
down.
to actually
Didn't
get
like
us to a
that.
point where we can have a conversation and actually pursue justice in a very real way, I have yet to see a single data point that shows that an acceleration of militarization leads to a pacification of protesters. You know, we saw this last night in Columbus. You know, this is a city that has seen violent clashes between
Don't sweat it.
police
Stay
and
sharp.
protesters
Son of
during
a
this
bitch. I
process.
shouldn't have been there.
And
I
police
absolutely should not have
changed
been
their
there.
tactics last night, changed their presence, and it became more peaceful. We saw it in cities like Newark and cities like
Oh, it's like
Flint,
Nazebo is pushing.
and these are cities
Hot
that
camp.
have been devastated by poverty and inequality,
I do think we can still win
where
this,
you have
yeah.
protesters and you have activists and you have
I might
community
do
members
Hardened
who are
Shield.
rightfully mad.
I think that would help. Or
But their police forces actually took a different tactic. The police forces, for the
Even that would
most
be nice too,
part,
kinda.
actually kept the batons and the shields.
I haven't really done anything with the haymaker.
And those have been two areas, both Newark and Flint, have been two of the areas that have had the most peaceful protests that we've seen throughout this entire time. So it both goes back to a challenge of what was the constitutional oath that people took. And also, what is the goal that you are actually trying to achieve?
Enemy team is
right now, if there's a certain goal you're trying
18,
to achieve, your tactics
we can give this up.
of actually having this chance.
Fort lost. Hang in there.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the stories, news, and click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe.
Can't believe I missed that.
Thanks so much for watching.
The United States is supposed to have a hard and fast line between domestic law enforcement and the armed forces.
Oh, that's it.
The founders' words, standing army. And it's a sacrosanct line.
Your courage honors me, warriors, but the demon always
specific
returns.
authority and invocation thereof. And yet yesterday we saw the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, in full fatigues, walking behind the president, surveying the scene as if he's a commanding general in a foreign theater. Today, Army combat veteran, Purple Heart recipient Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois described the president's field trip.
And as he was walking there,
It's like we are.
he was followed behind him by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in military fatigues.
That key is
and
gone.
Good job.
The Secretary of Defense, walking along like lapdogs behind a draft-dodging wannabe tin pot dictator.
Rotate up.
Later last night, this happened. This is a United States military Lakota helicopter hovering 40 feet among peaceful protesters. In a, quote, show of force, it was flying so low, the tree branches were snapping off and people were running for cover. This is a maneuver conducted in combat zones.
Wow, looks
to
like we
scare
cleaned them
away
out.
Nice
insurgents.
job, team.
And yesterday,
Clean
it was
them out.
conducted against Americans exercising their First Amendment
I am
right by a
on my
president
way,
who is
mortals.
threatening to send the army to use
Looks
its
like they're
weapons
getting bot. They got
against
bot.
us.
Our enemies
The
took out a
American
key.
people, the people he is tasked with protecting. In the midst of a pandemic that has already killed over 100,000 people in no small part due to his lack of leadership.
That should take the enemy down a
And
peg or
American
two.
citizens are being intimidated by their own military. This is not how a democratic leader works.
You and all your
Actually,
servants
no.
in hell will cower before
We got
me.
numbers. Hoping
Civil
that was
rights
gonna
lawyer,
die.
author Brian Stevenson has long understood this country has centuries.
Nah, that seems
Presuming
dangerous.
young black men dangerous and guilty. For the last few decades, he's done extraordinary work to counter that law.
Our battle cannot
Nazebo
remain
and
here.
both Ragnaros are down, so we do have numbers advantage. We should be
And
pressing
racial
pretty hard.
justice, fights to get people out of jail.
Nice.
There we go.
Enemy slain.
Justice, which is dedicated to victims of lynching and other.
Nah, I really want it, but it seems pretty dangerous.
Joining me now is civil rights lawyer Brian Stevenson. Brian, it's wonderful to have you. I've been wanting to talk to you throughout this. I want to start tonight with an image that I would just like you to respond to and reflect upon. Given how much you've spoken about this country's history, this is the Lincoln.
That's
Memorial.
one down.
The
Think of
Lincoln
it.
Memorial,
That's
Victory through
We do have a massive lead,
righteousness.
though.
who oversaw
So that'd be
the
pretty nice.
fight to end slavery in this nation, was assassinated before Reconstruction. And these are American soldiers there to protect that memorial from people who might come and chant.
Yeah, I don't think we should
I
be
will
pressing that anymore.
cleanse this land
I mean,
from your corruption, hellspawn.
Well, it's
I mean,
deeply disturbing, but it's
can't,
also
or the bruiser can't be pushed without pretty hard. There we go, that's what I was trying to say.
reckoned with,
But our morals
the history of
massively
our country.
up.
I'm a product of Brown River Board of Education. I grew up in a community where people couldn't go to the public schools when I was born. I started my education in a colored school. There were no high schools for black kids. When my dad was a teenager, he couldn't go to high school in our county. And when racial integration came, many of us believed that this nation would change. None of us thought that 50 years later, black people
We
would still be
wrecked a
menaced,
key.
targeted, and
Big top by
marginalized.
Garrosh.
And what I realized,
But now Ragnaros is boss,
to
so.
reckon
So that's pretty cool.
history. And that
I'm going to be heading there. Looks like our team want to back right out. Which isn't too bad of an idea, I think. They're pushing that, dropping that pretty hard, so I'm going to get this camped right here.
My strength leaves me. It will take some time before I can recover.
To make that institution, which was so barbaric, acceptable. And so they said that black people are less deserving, black people are less human, black people are less evolved,
Duke City.
less worthy.
It's 5 versus 4, so yeah. No, it's 4 versus 4.
Continued past 1865. It's why I've argued that slavery doesn't end in 1865, it just evolves. And law enforcement and these institutions of militarized power became the tools that sustained that. Law enforcement that allowed black people to be ravaged and massacred and killed during Reconstruction. White Southerners overthrew governments because there was no protection. And that ideology of white supremacy was even greater than our commitment to the Constitution, because the 14th Amendment should have protected black and brown people, should have allowed black people to vote.
Nope.
And then throughout
We don't have Tankus. Now we have
20th century, law enforcement stood back and allowed black people to be pulled out of jails and lynched on the courthouse lawn, and terrorized and menaced until millions fled to the north and west, where they were once again targeted and menaced by the police in Cleveland.
Our eternal battle will soon be upon you.
When they went to those communities as refugees. And in my lifetime, that narrative of racial hierarchy, that ideology of white supremacy has persisted. And so even though I've been practicing law, I have a degree from Harvard Law School, and argued cases at the Supreme Court, I go to places where I have to navigate this presumption of dangerousness and guilt, and I have to prove my worthfulness.
I fight for the glory of the high heavens.
We got 24 seconds till
I've been pulled out of my car and had
test starts back.
a gun at my head, threatening to blow my brain out. And I think so much of what you're seeing now is the accumulation of the exhaustion and anger and fatigue. When you have to constantly navigate these presumptions, you have to constantly deal with this idea that you're not worthy of protection.
I must find another way.
And people are tired, and that's what
that should take the enemy down a peg
we
or
should
two.
absolutely be defending.
Suggest how resistant our nation is to changing, to a commitment to truth and justice. And that's why I've taken time from my legal career to start working on these multiple sites, building the memorial, building the museum. It's in part because I don't believe we would win Brown versus Board of Education today. I think we have actually retreated from the commitment of equality to the public.
There we go, there we go. We held them, we held them. I'm going to stay here because this is dangerous.
Sustaining racial hierarchy and white
Looks like
supremacy,
they're going back to heal.
And what the police and police officers and their military has to confront is that those images are really damaging. I mean, it was the police who met black folks on the Bridge who were literally on their knees praying, and they bloodied and
a brutal assault.
Good job, we got him.
That were the forces of opposition to racial integration in the 1950s and 60s. It's the police that have been a presence in black communities that has been so oppressive. And that's why to really change the problem we have, police officers in the military and others to recognize that
that's not good. Focus up.
What a lot of our work is about now.
Joined now by Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff to Secretary of State Colin Powell, and I wondered, from your eyes, in your many years serving and in government, what you made of what the president did last night.
Chris, I want to thank you first for letting me see our opening scenes and hear your opening commentary. I have to say that if I were watching Beijing and Tiananmen Square,
I'll peel some more.
or if I were watching Rome in Mussolini's time,
we should be
or
all right.
Nuremberg in Hitler's time, I wouldn't have probably seen two different scenes, except that there was no killing yet. And I have to say that one of the things that Colin Powell and I used to talk about periodically with some passion was the civil-military relationship in our country. And we both admitted that the 200-plus years of Republican democracy that we've enjoyed has been assured largely because of that relationship. And now I see these scenes like you showed and like I've been seeing for the last 96 hours or so, and I see that relationship fraying and eroding in front of my eyes. And it really concerns
The enemy's on our core.
because we
Defend
were
it
right.
at all costs.
It is
Our
the
foe is
essence
only
of our
wounded,
democracy.
not
It's
killed.
the reason
This
we're still here.
reprieve shall be
And
brief.
now I see it disappearing before my eyes.
I want to ask about that Lakota helicopter and the show of force, which to me, I mean, the part
They're on the
release
core.
were the
Gotta dig deep.
agents that cleared Lafayette Park, but you know,
Nope,
some
nope.
set of orders were communicated down some kind of chain of command.
Son of a bitch, son of a
To have
bitch, son of a
US
bitch.
It's okay.
military
You got this.
Helicopter fly low over a civilian population assembled to protest as a show of force. Are you troubled by the fact that that chain of command, that set of orders, wherever they came from, ultimately succeeded in being carried out?
I am, and I'm concerned because I know General Milley Holly, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, however he says that name, is not.
Yeah,
in
he
the chain
hits,
of
holy
command.
shit, he hits
He's
fucking
an
hard.
advisor to the Secretary of Defense and to the President and to the National
Yeah, look at that.
Security. He
Dropped
is
him
not
in
a member
2
of the
moves.
chain of command. Powell used to say, "I don't even command."
The enemy's
my
attacking our
secretary
core.
here."
Too much
And he was
damage,
right. He
and
didn't
it's
command a
game over.
single soldier. So what is that guy doing? What is he doing stage?
We immortals shall return before long,
with
heroes.
the President of the United States. And who, your
Look at that.
question, who did
Done.
order that? Was it the D.C. Guard commander? Was it the Military District of Washington commander? Who ordered that? And who told
Jesus,
them
right?
to do that?
Rengar has
If it
fallen,
was
but
the
so hasn't
Washington
Reg.
State,
I'm
it's
alive.
out of order completely.
Our core
If
is
it
under
was
attack.
The Military District of Washington commander who decided to do that. Under whose orders did he decide to do it? Under President Trump?
I will deliver
Under
this
Secretary
realm
Esper?
from your corruption,
These are questions
Hellspawn.
that are going to roil around for a long time to
We're
come.
dead.
Son of a
It's not
bitch.
like we
I
haven't
do,
done similar things
Our
before.
core is under attack.
Indeed, we had a segment of the country.
Jesus,
you
I
may
really
recall,
want
in
to
1861
get that kill.
that tried to destroy the United States of America and formed its own confederacy to do so. So we have
I don't think we
had
can come back from
quote
this.
unquote American soldiers shooting
Yikes.
at American people all over the country. This is not something we want to happen again. I thought we had pushed that dog away, and we were, in a sense, in a civil-military relationship that was sacrosanct.
The enemy's
and that
attacking
would
our
continue
core.
to protect
Too
this
much
republic.
damage, and it's
As I said
game over.
before, the social contract is eroding, the civil-military
fuck.
relationship is eroding, and you have to point a finger, although I will admit it started majorly after 9/11 with my own administration, Bush's administration. But it has been given an incredible catalytic
See, he's so
effect.
close to
This
dying, but then bam,
This president is
he just heals like a
something I never
bunch.
thought I would see in the White House, despite
That's my
H.L.
biggest
Mencken's
problem, is I want to keep
prophecy
pushing
that
him into
somehow
our
we
back
get the guy
line.
we deserve.
But he's a fucking Garrosh, and he's gonna survive everything. It looks like
Nice.
Debo has fallen.
Enemy slain.
While the fight against the epidemic is essentially being abandoned by this president. As bad as he was at mounting that fight,
Actually, everybody's dead
walked
except
away
for
from it now.
Rengar. Holy shit.
Now we have this totally new crisis in which the president is ordering armed, in his words, heavily
It is
armed,
time for a
active duty U.S.
change in
troops
strategy.
to be used against the American people on U.S. soil. And as much as this appears to be driven by the president's desire to try to look tough, today, I don't know if you saw this, today the president literally started
Holy
saying
shit.
that he hadn't actually been rushed to the safety bunker inside the White House because of protests outside the White House. Today he said whatever you heard about that, about him being rushed to the bunker, that was fake news. Today he decided
Our
to explain that by
triumph
saying he
brings
had gone to
order
that
to
bunker
this realm.
of his own accord because he wanted to inspect the bunker. The president is a
Enemy
bunker
down.
inspector now.
That's
Doubled up.
GG.
That's
needed to be
3.
moved somewhere for
Incredible.
Oh, nice one. He inspects bunkers.
The heavens shall triumph this day.
Yeah, that was awesome.
As much as any of this may be driven by something as stupid as the president's macho desire to look tougher than he is,
Motherfucker,
to
I
look
hate
like,
this.
a
I gotta
fake
change
general
those.
or some sort of cartoon dictator. His fantasies, however lame and transparent, have effect in the real
Killing a
world when they
hero
take
grants a
the
lot of
form
XP
orders
and puts stress on
to
our
the
enemy.
U.S. military. And this fantasy of his is about the U.S. military, and he has actually ordered the Pentagon to send all
You are
active
wrecking the
duty
place.
U.S. troops from the U.S. Army into the streets of Washington, D.C. to be deployed against the American people in American city streets. Now, is the Defense Department leadership of this country and the military leadership of this country going to be some sort of bulwark against that kind of craziness?
Elric did get that. He did an awesome job.
It's been a remarkable 48 hours in terms of figuring out that the answer to that is no. Last night, Defense Secretary Mark Esper told NBC News that he only participated in that photo op. He only walked with the president across the park and stood in front of that church. That photo op in which they cleared out all of those protesters with chemical gas and pepper rounds.
I was having a lot of fun.
He says he only participated in that photo op as a representative of the Department of Defense because, quote, I didn't know where I was going. I mean, to be clear, they didn't put a bag over his head and walk him backwards in circles 3 times before they sent him across that park. He appeared to know where he was, but last night he told NBC News that he only did it because he didn't know where he was going. Just all of a sudden, ooh, look where I am. Today at the Pentagon, this morning at the Pentagon, Secretary Esper tried to walk that back. He denied that he ever said that to NBC News. He, in fact, did say that to NBC News. He implied at this morning's press briefing at the Pentagon that, yeah, he had known where he was going when he participated in that photo op, but he didn't really mean to be in that photo op. It was kind of inadvertent. Secretary Esper then, though, said that he wanted an investigation into U.S. military helicopters buzzing protesters in D.C. city streets to hit them with rotor wash and try to terrify them off the streets. He said he wanted an investigation into that. It didn't look safe to him. He also said he disagreed with the president that active duty U.S. soldiers should be deployed on American streets against the American people.
Way above that
burst of independence from the defense secretary.
The game squinting.
It was interesting this morning at the Pentagon. It quickly earned him some headlines about how the White House wasn't happy about his remarks. His apparent disagreement from him apparently disagreeing with the president on these matters. The White House press secretary suggested that Secretary Esper might not be defense secretary for long, depending on how the president really felt about those remarks. Well, that was all it took. Defense secretary folded completely. The Associated Press had reported earlier today that these combat-trained troops from the 82nd Airborne who had been sent to bases around D.C. ready to deploy on the streets of D.C. The AP had reported earlier today that they were going to be sent back home.
Blizzard has...
Right? There's the defense secretary saying, I don't believe that active duty troops should be here.
Some of the maps, like we had in last game.
This way. We need to look into that.
Then it might be some...
trying to sort of walk back the I didn't mean to participate in that photo.
Cold,
maybe that
cold
was
character,
a good idea.
But they also there's going to be a tank. So
we get this word from the AP that the troops are
pretty
actually
excited.
going back to their bases.
I was wondering what they were going to end up doing with the new.
That's how we thought things were going to go.
Ever since Deathwing, like everybody wanted Deathwing so bad that
flummoxed and confused defense secretary. But all
like that was a big character. Like, what are they going to do next? You know, I'm assuming they're trying to bring back more people, you know, to play. But
take a stance.
Like Deathwing is such a popular character.
Even if it's about your
what are they going to do next? I just don't think whoever's next is going to live up to the hype
troops
of
against the American people, and we
I
know
hope
you
they're not
don't want to
nearly
do
as
that.
overpowered
That's
as
not take a
Deathwing,
stance that
he
differs
is
from the president's
ridiculous.
whatsoever. These little shots from the White House, remark from the White House
he was a lot of fun,
spokesperson.
Secretary
Esper got right back in line. And this was the Associated Press reporting later in the day.
I don't really like to play Deathwing. I think if you
Army Secretary Ryan
I think I
McCarthy
maybe have him at level 4 now.
That he received notice of the Pentagon order to send about 200 soldiers
I'm
from the
at level
82nd
4.
Airborne's Immediate Response Force home. He received word of that order just after 10 a.m. today.
Win
Hours
rate?
later,
That's pretty
though,
impressive.
the Pentagon notified the Army
Games played
Secretary
4.
that Defense Secretary Mark
Killing
Esper
it.
had reversed that earlier decision.
He's just not for me.
McCarthy told the
Though I got to
Associated
admit,
Press he was told about the reversal after
this
Esper
is a sleek
attended a
skin.
meeting at the White House. So it looked like the defense secretary might stand up against some of this madness, and then he just
they should have
instantly
a skin.
And then yes, we get General Mattis speaking from sort of beyond the political grave today, breaking his silence.
I actually saw
saying
somebody with like
this can't
186 level Abathur, and I was
Current
pretty,
military leadership is just
and pretty
capitulated
jelly.
entirely.
I was pretty proud of
Mattis
him.
gets up on his hind legs finally. And
I wish
says,
that I
"This
could
cannot be."
play Abathur a lot more.
But a retired defense
in
secretary
ranked.
isn't much compared to a serving one.
I think that'd be
who
pretty
won't
sweet.
stand up or who only stands
Yeah,
up for a second
50%
and
win
then
rate.
gets
He's such an
immediately chased
overpowered
back into
character,
his hiding
and I
hole.
love him. I really do. He's just
And
the bomb.
his military counterpart, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, really did put on combat fatigues and strut around the streets of Washington, D.C. like he was trying on military rule for size.
I'm so proud of
He
my
hasn't said beep
116.
about
I
that
just
since he
cannot
did
get
it.
over it. But I do need to get What the hell is this skin?
Joining us now is Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Sir, thank you very much for your time tonight. I know this is a very fraught time and a difficult and busy time for you.
Yeah, this is
thank you. Glad to be with you.
That's what I was looking for.
Just tell us
I want the
terms,
airplanes.
Why you made this decision to add this additional
trains are
charge
cute.
for Officer Chauvin.
But I need that. I could buy it, but I don't like spending that stuff. I like to spend my gold and my shards. I don't like to spend my good stuff.
We reviewed tape, and we came to the conclusion that these charges were warranted. Second-degree murder charges were supported by the fact which we believe we could prove in the court of law. And then the additional charges against the other.
I actually haven't played Garrosh in a while, actually. He was a lot of fun, but kind of got bored. It kind of sucks because a lot of these characters now have percent damage, so if you're Gary, they're all going to pick percent damage, or you get, it seems like every time I play it, that's how I play Deathwing, I always get a percent damage character. It's always a Leo or a Tychus. I hate it, I hate it. Like, I understand why, because it's overpowered, but I can't get.
Absolutely defenseless and unresponsive.
I can't get.
Those things, I think,
what are you doing?
Support the charges and the
can't
fact
tail
that
you.
we have been gathering.
She's a cat. She has a tail.
Let me ask, it's been a couple of days since you were brought in to take over this case, this investigation, these prosecutions. Are you saying that you looked at evidence that
looks
the
like we're
county
starting.
attorney didn't look at when he made the initial decision to charge Officer Chauvin with third-degree, not second-degree murder? Or is it that you looked at essentially the same evidence that the county attorney looked at, but you interpreted it differently than he did?
Additional evidence had come in since then. And in fact, County Attorney Mike Freeman and I have been in contact. He's a partner in the case. And so with the new evidence we've seen, the evidence we acquired, and some fresh eyes all together, we decided jointly that these were the right charges on all four.
Come on. Come on.
I will tell you this, Rachel.
My other cat, Kelly Cat, she's so precious.
We're continuing to gather information. I am confident that these charges are supported by the facts that we can prove in court. But
We'll just banneright him.
On the
right quick
for more evidence, and we've asked people if you have more videotape, you have more information about this case. We're hoping that people will continue to come forward, and that we can continue to find out more about what really happened at 38th in Chicago, in the city of Minneapolis, about 9 days ago.
I know that you are constrained by how much detail you can give us about the evidence of the case because this all has to happen in court. But one of the things that we talked about
Zebo is a mage. He's not wrong.
Body camera footage.
Not
we know
wrong.
from the criminal complaint that we believe all of the officers involved here not only were wearing body cams, but they were on.
Seems like a team player right there.
If the evidence from those body cameras on all of the officers is important evidence, and if the public should expect to ultimately see that before the trial, if that will not be something that will be made publicly available.
The crusade calls.
Oh, that
Well, I
stinks.
can tell you that it is very important.
That really fucking stinks.
I can tell you that I just don't know what the timeline is for releasing that information. But I do hold the value of transparency very highly. I think it's important. The public does have a right.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really play much Dibbles anymore.
A higher value is securing convictions.
Ooh, Murdan. Piss everybody off.
There's almost no history in Minnesota of convicting police officers for crimes on the job. There's obviously one very high-profile exception to that in recent years.
I'm probably not going to go Mosh. I don't really care for Mosh all that much.
But aside from that, Minnesota police officers don't tend to get convicted, even when, in the rare instance when they do get charged. Do you feel yourself sort of up against the weight of that history, and do you feel like your office has a clear view of how to get around that lack of precedent?
Yes, I do. But let me tell you, I just remind people of the difficulty of these cases, because when they see the tape, to them it's just so clear. But I say, you know what? but the way this plays out in the courtroom is going to be different. And people who are, social justice advocates who have strong views about this case probably will not make it onto the jury. And that's just the way we do jury selection in the United States. You have to pretty much say that you can keep your mind open and don't have any preconceived notions. So that jury will be comprised who probably weren't out at the rallies. So it is very important that folks understand that these cases are not easy. But it's also important for people to understand that this case, these 4 defendants should be convicted. They did the conduct,
I think I'm gonna go probably heal.
That violated these criminal statutes, and I would not have charged them otherwise. And they should be convicted.
Peel the fuck out of them.
And we will work
Minnesota
to
Attorney
make sure
General,
that they are.
Sorry. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison now leading the prosecution in the George Floyd murder case again, announcing new charges today against the lead officer in that arrest and the other 3 officers who were on the scene. Sir, I know it's a really busy time. Thanks for taking time to help us understand tonight.
Thanks for taking time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Time for combat, friends. Be prepared.
Are you ready to shed some blood?
Yamiche, I don't want to skip over, because of the crush of headlines, 2 things significant in John Kelly, former White House Chief of Staff, saying 1, he agrees with Secretary Mattis, who, among other things, compared Donald Trump's pension
so regen orbs
with the
increases my heal, and I also heal
saying 1, he agrees with them,
52 health
matters
around me.
we
So it'll help Jim. They're not rank guard. It'll help rank guard.
Slay the invaders!
Well, the president, of course, is interested in doubling down on the way that he wants to handle the protesters. He's doubling down on the idea that the U.S. law enforcement, including the National Guard and people in military gear, should be the ones policing people who are peacefully protesting. The president today in the Rose Garden talked about the National Guard. He didn't talk about any systemic changes to racism. He put laser focus on this idea. But I think there's a question here, of course, which is that there are current and former generals who work for presidents all saying that they're worried that America is turning into an authoritarian government. And it is very notable.
Never mind.
I will say, though, Nicole, I was talking to a source in Florida today, and they said, what took these generals so long? The country has been through so much. John Kelly oversaw at one point the separation of immigrant children from their families. They're also, of course, the president saying that there were very fine people at a Nazi rally. Some people think that even though these generals are admirable for speaking out now,
I am a
that
terrible
they're speaking out too
ATC.
late,
It's been
and that
so
they let
long
so many
since I
other
played
things
him.
go by that were also important.
Yamiche, I'm so glad you said that, and you sort of popped the cork on my burning rage that they
There
took so
we go.
long to say this.
Beautiful.
This president was impeached, and he stood in front of the Senate. There was an opportunity for Republicans to be persuaded to hear from a witness, someone who saw up close exactly what General Mattis saw, which was a president who lacks the maturity, and I think Mattis's point, lacks the fitness for the office he holds. This former national security official says, look, we have an election in 5 months. Maybe these voices will make it abundantly clear what the stakes are. What is the sort of calculation
and
on this president that some of these former aides might endorse Joe Biden?
That would be remarkable if that happened. I'm not quite
I
sure
thought I got the
we've
Sippy.
reached that
Apparently I
point
didn't.
yet. What we
Wasn't paying
have
attention.
already now seen is that these generals and these military
Oh, because we are
leaders,
so-
their
and we
words
are winning.
mattering to Republicans that Donald Trump needs to win the election. Lisa Murkowski is now saying that she's not sure if she's going to be able to back President Trump, which is of course an extraordinary thing. So I think what President Trump is most worried about is the idea that he might lose the faith of these military leaders, and as a result, lose the faith in a
down.
lot of rank and file Republicans who feel like they've weathered storm after storm, scandal after scandal. I think
Yeah,
the
we'll
other
do-
thing to
we'll
note,
do a
of
movement
course,
speed.
is that there's
I
key
could go for that.
constituencies like white men with college educations, or white women who are living in the suburbs, or white seniors who are looking at these military leaders and saying, if they're alarmed, how might I back President if these people are speaking out?
You know,
So now
Frank
every time I
Figliuzzi,
use an ability, I get a
there are only
speed
two
buff.
things on the menu, and the country's got to eat. We got to have a president. There are 2 choices on the menu, and if they are so alarmed that in the span of 24 hours, 3 former chairmen of the Joint Chiefs have spoken out, if John Kelly, who was deep inside the West Wing every minute of every hour of every day,
Ooh,
of
that
a big
corpse
chunk of
make
Donald
for
Trump's
good
presidency, has now
Shut him right
co-signed
down.
Jim
Get that
Mattis's
regen orb.
review
Perfect.
of Donald Trump's character, his lack of leadership, and his lack of understanding of what the American presidency is supposed to be. How do we not?
I guess
How
we're
is
gonna
the
go help
obvious
because
next
he needs
step not even if it's a reluctant or hesitant embrace of the alternative, for the sake of the institutions they've taken an oath to protect, for the sake of the Constitution that they've now spoken out, they feel is being trampled by Donald Trump's order to militarize and federalize the police, policing these peaceful demonstrations.
Yeah, you know what? She's probably gonna go.
Not take that next step.
I was wondering if she went teleport build.
So in my old line of work, Nicole, I would call these clues. These are clues in the form of people who are inside telling us what's going to happen, what is happening, and how troubling it is. And I'll go a step further. We have more investigative clues that can shape our thinking. I'm calling the next 5 months in the history of our country the coming chaos. Here are some more clues. When the President of the United States refers to the protesters in Lafayette Park,
I'm here for the peels.
when the President of the United States tweets that he wants to designate the most active opponents he has as a domestic terrorism organization, when the Attorney General of the United States designates an entire law enforcement agency, the Drug Enforcement Administration, as authorized with full federal powers to surveil and monitor protesters.
What are we doing?
Those are clues about the coming chaos and what we're in for the next 5 years.
My power grows by your enemies.
I guess we'll do some damage.
And freedom of speech that are the clues we're seeing, or the alternative, which is the preservation of the rule of law. Those are the choices.
My web weavers descend
You
upon
gave the country some pretty stark choices to choose from in terms of who we are and who we're going to be. Let me play a little bit of your eulogy yesterday.
The reason why we're marching all over the world is we were like George. We couldn't breathe, not because there was something wrong with our lungs, but you wouldn't take your knee off our neck. We don't want no favors. Just get up off of us, and we can be and do whatever we can be.
I can't get to you, Zemo.
Rev, 74% of Americans would seem to agree with you.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. We got it. We're good.
In the number of Americans who believe
Just
that
need that health orb.
events
I'm just gonna
reflect a broader
fucking sippy
issue
cup now. Might as
over
well.
racial injustice. I think
Looks
that's
like there's a
up
team
26
fighting.
points from 2015,
Or a
which
team
obviously was in the wake of some tragic police shootings and deaths the year before that. So what do you make of this moment? And I don't want to be the story, but you are part of it now. Your place in
Now
it.
they are dead. Good for
really
you.
think, and we are at a very different moment that I don't think this president understands. And I spoke about it during the eulogy. I think he's on the wrong time.
Choose a talent.
Because for him
We're gonna do
to
the
be
stage shot.
talking
Yep.
about
We
militarization
got another 80 seconds for our
trying
sippy cup.
to, in some ways, criminalize or make terrorists out of peaceful protesters. And on the day
We'll turn it
of
top.
the memorial service for Mr. Floyd, it shows how
Get him to
tone
turn in.
deaf and insensitive he is. To say today
Nope, back out. Just
George
back out.
Floyd would be proud of the unemployment numbers because some numbers went up when the black unemployment numbers are higher than they've been in 10 years is an insensitivity. First
All right,
of all,
we got it, we got it.
would have been happy to see a man not put his knee on his neck. And something this president has not addressed through the office of president. That is saying his justice.
All right, we're gonna back right out. We don't need to be here.
Patterns of certain police departments, which the Obama administration had done in the city of Baltimore and Chicago and other cities.
get
We
out
need
these.
to deal with
There we
federal
go, thank
law
you.
that will hold police accountable.
Huh, I
He
don't
is not
know about
addressing
that.
the issues. He's
If I
trying
have
to use
the shield on me, but I'm not personally attacking
but they did not represent
an enemy,
the overwhelming majority
I'm attacking
of
a
the
tower
people.
too. I still get
And
targeted.
they certainly were not the people that were in Lafayette
That's a good
Park
question.
tonight that they used all kinds of things to move them out so he could do a photo op where they bought a church that had been the victim of violence.
We don't need to be here anymore. We got that top
and
one.
I still say I've been in church all my life. Was a boy preacher until I became an adult preacher. I've never seen anybody hold a Bible like that.
Yamiche, is the White House surprised by the blowback from that press stunt that the Rev just talked about? I know the Times.
That good push. That's some good pushing right there. I'm just gonna get
was
this.
involved in carrying out Mark Meadows, White House
Just
Chief of
scare
Staff.
My web wheels have fallen. The other gems
And now there's a fence being erected. You've got
I don't know what's
Mattis
going.
being pushed
Hey,
to
Anna
finally
just wasted
speak
her ult,
out.
and I'll accept that.
Former senior national
Looks like we're
security
pushing
official
bottom
told
pretty
me
hard.
They wouldn't be surprised to see Trump eventually maybe even Milley forced to resign over the confronts that are building still within former military circles. Do you think they're surprised by the reaction?
Good ult by Rengar. I always want to call him Ragnaros.
There's a question of
Too many
whether
R names.
President Trump and the White House really understand
we almost got
through which we're all
bottom.
living. So the
But
president
we do have
wanted
enough to
have
turn
a
in
photo op,
again.
and the people around him thought it was a good idea. Maybe it was Ivanka's idea. The point is that in the middle of a protest where people are demanding that their rights and equality be respected, the president moved all of them around and then
Heal up our
took
friends.
a casual walk. Somewhere maybe there was someone thinking maybe this isn't the best optics. So I think that maybe they're surprised
Just
by
gotta
that.
get out of
Maybe
there.
at some
They have a lot of
someone
gems.
said, hey, we should get this. We're gonna get, we're gonna get good value out of.
I'm
this. But
not
I
gonna lie, I'm
Nicole,
really
just
surprised
what
that I got out of
happened
that time.
To me, doubles down on the idea that this was a White House that's really focused on optics, and sometimes it backfires, and sometimes it works. I was at
I guess we'll be
in
friendly.
the Rose Garden today, and I went
Happily
and sat
give
down
him,
with a bunch of other
let him turn
reporters,
in
and
if they'll
our
let me
seats were
turn in.
really close together. We were
Son of
wondering
a
why
bitch,
it was
I
so
didn't mean that.
why they were so close together. And the president, during his speech, said, well, we're doing
There
so
we
well,
go.
even the reporters are sitting close together. He was using us as props, as the
Sorry,
White
it's
House
falling. Good job.
Administration put out today, the statement they put out.
Sorry,
He was
Putin.
literally making us sit closer together because the White House thought it, quote, looks better. That was the answer that we were given. So this is a president who was literally violating social distancing policies, forcing my body to be closer to someone else because they are thinking about the optics of a press conference. So I don't know if they're surprised by that blowback of that move, but it seems as though this White House is about optics, and sometimes they just think, well, maybe we'll get the blowback, maybe we won't. All news in some minds is good news. So if it's bad or good, it's still benefiting the president in some people's minds.
All right. 6 seconds in my ult
Frank
be up.
Luzzi, if we were looking at another country doing
I guess I
what
might
you
as well
just
sneak and
described,
hate them
we
all.
would call it propaganda. The Washington Post, Greg Miller, talked about what this country looks like to current and former intelligence officials, and some of them likened it to
make for
the
good
last gasps of authoritarian regimes.
John
What
has
do you
fallen.
see when you
Cool.
see
I'll accept
what
that.
you just described?
Right. Nice ult by Rag. Beautiful.
My career in intelligence and foreign counterintelligence caused me
All right, I'm gonna back
study
right out and heal.
failed states that are about to fail.
Top has fallen. Gorgeous.
We have destroyed a fort together.
We are really far ahead, but
Deeply disturbing, no matter where you are.
should never get cocky.
Choose a talent.
So I think, look, we've got a president who is trying to divide us. I think we need to stop wondering whether
It is
or
over
not the optics bother him or the pushback or reaction surprises him. We've seen the strategy here. The strategy is to divide and conquer, to use a narrative that puts us in battle space, that refers to American streets as battlegrounds.
Destroy them.
Power slide, get armor.
Gems of power to my
In American cities, he relishes seemingly the idea
Yeah,
that
looks like
people
they're gonna
are
be able to turn
appalled
in.
at his behavior because it further splits and divides into you're either for law and order or you're for the terrorists. This is where we're headed. It's black and white. It's simple.
Nope,
and
don't want
simple
that.
solutions are not what's needed right now. But
Your enemy is deserving
of
of my power. Prepare yourselves.
a strategy that's going to get us into a failed state if we don't refuse that narrative.
I don't like this.
You know,
I don't like
it
this at
reminds
all.
me of something my colleague Rachel Maddow says, watch what they do, not what they say. And it's a good admonition from Frank and one I take to heart. I want to turn to the personal, Rev, and ask you to tell us how
I think we
George
should be able to
Floyd's
clean
doing,
most of
how
this.
his kids are doing, how his, you were with them all day. How are they doing?
They are a very strong family. I've dealt with a lot of families down through the years. Very strong. They are looking.
Look at that. That's appeal right there. That'll teach those other fuckers. We're gonna head down here.
Society. They really are focused on justice. They really are focused on making sure that George didn't die for nothing. And they're very, very solid people.
Holy fuck. Oh, I lost. No, he's got those. And he's got, oh, he's alright. He's alright. He's good. Right, we're good.
And I think that they hurt for other people. I brought the mother of Eric Garner down.
Two are dead. I'm dead, but I have mosh pit. Or save dive.
Who understand each other's pain.
That's pretty close.
But I think that what really has encouraged him is to see the tens of thousands of people, white and black, that are marching all over the world. And they said do it peacefully.
He got right out of the fuck out of there. That was nice. That was nice.
8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's why I stopped the funeral for people to stand
wouldn't be
that
too
long
bad.
and stand at home.
But I don't think I've really died all that much.
There's all
I've only
kind
died
of time
once.
here for you to realize to stop this. And when you can do that, and then we see today a tape of a 75-year-old white man pushed like that, and they just keep walking past him. That is what this White House doesn't get. People are saying that we're all at risk, and this must stop. Whether you're a 46-year-old black man in Minneapolis, Minnesota, laying there begging for your life, saying, I can't breathe, or a 75-year-old white man in Buffalo, policing must be accountable. I must pull back for now.
Rev, how are you? Where's your head on all this?
We didn't have any
And
numbers.
I heard,
We weren't
watched
gonna win
your,
that one.
eulogy, and I know you.
Good ult, though.
The time's up. Do you? Is it? I mean, are we done? Are we changing right now?
I think that we're not done. I mean, I go through every one of these saying, I hope it's the last one. And I hope I don't have to console another
Nazeema's at
family.
134 stacks.
I end up there again.
So no, they're not really letting them
That's what I
stack.
wanted to do. That's what I feel I was born to do. I can't tell you that you don't get moments of being discouraged. But when I see a lot of people now, I told a story, and I'll say it quickly in the eulogy. I remember when I would march in places like Minneapolis and protest, and I've had young whites say the N-word to me, go home. But last week when I was there Thursday, a young white girl, looked like about 11 years old, pulled my coattail and said, Reverend Allen, I turned around and braced myself waiting for her to say something ugly, and she said, no justice, no peace. She gave me the inspiration yesterday to do that.
Fire at will.
Not well.
That fort is gone forever.
Yep, that was a terrible idea. Whoopsie poopsie.
And I hope that the future is in that 11-year-old's heart. And thank you.
That's all right. I mean, we've got
yesterday. And thanks for joining us
we
today.
have everything.
Val Sharpton, Yumi Cinder, Frank Figluzzi, thank you all
So,
for
yeah,
spending
we're all
some
right.
time
We're
with
all right.
us. As we go to break, you're looking at the newly renamed
They're probably
Black
going
Lives
for
Matter
boss.
Plaza near the White House. It's DC's answer to a city still reeling from the way federal officials are handling the protests
they're
there. When we come
absolutely
back, we'll
going to be a
talk to
boss,
two
yeah.
experts and ask who leads the conversation in law enforcement about reforming law enforcement. Plus, has this week been a turning point in the 2020 election? Trump losing the faith of his military, the support of some evangelical voters, and falling behind in
Friendly
some
team had
must-win
46
states.
out of 60
Our friend
gens.
Steve Schmidt weighs in on it all those stories coming up.
The enemy team has boss. Ragnaros better be careful. He ought to be careful.
You're watching MSNBC International.
Well, I'll be there. All except for Brad. Killer Man.
White terrorism, white supremacist terrorism in this country is not some weird analog to Al-Qaeda or ISIS. It's not some foreign thing that looks
Look at
like
that. Didn't even
something
get
that
up
we've been
freaking
fighting in the war on terror.
outed.
It's actually fundamentally as American as anything. And it is an existential threat to the multiracial, pluralistic, equal, and open democracy that we've been fighting for in this country since people died on the battlefield in the Civil War.
Rule number 10, Section 2A states a player shall not run with the ball without dribbling it. That's the rule. What about our politics? Are there any rules anymore?
Son of a gun. That is such a mean ult. Holy smoke.
Politics could use a little refereeing, and we're not afraid to blow the whistle.
Jesus Christ.
Today, the World Health Organization officially
But we are pushing top those Winions.
None of us is unaffected by its impact.
Coming in November, people are going to be voting for stability.
I have to plan a funeral. How is this going to
back?
We don't prepare for giving birth in a pandemic.
The importance of music is to keep our
really stinks.
Join me as we go into
really
hear from everyday people grappling with the issues of our time.
Good evening, Rachel. Good luck getting through your show without 18,000 pieces of breaking news.
I was just going to say, yeah, lucky you, Joy. Got to be sitting in for Chris tonight while 10 major stories break all at once.
I guess I should have done Mosh Pit.
The
dead one, you know.
She got me. She got me good. You're amazing. You know, he said, I need somebody with 6 arms to juggle the show, and Joy keeps those 4 in reserve.
They're going.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks a lot. America has to look at its permanent underclass. The most important social program is spelled J-O-B.
These things can't happen without the proper policies in place.
The question is, as you say, how to pay for it.
Rotate up. Jim Raynor is pushing bottom. And Zemo has fallen.
Every day is the
Excuse me.
No longer have
What's going
a
on
fort
behind the
there.
scenes at the White House today?
He could find himself in jail. We couldn't do this without the best reporters.
Hey, Laura, can you find out who's writing on this?
This one, to me, is just a whole new level. Take cue 1. We're going to try to give you the best review of this day in the life of this president. As we come on the air tonight, we have breaking news.
Oh, I thought I had my fucking slide.
A pandemic that has turned our world upside down. The story changes hourly. It's why the 11th hour is here every night.
Reclaim the striking images out of our nation's capital today. Massive yellow letters spelling out Black Lives Matter. It's painted on Washington, D.C.'s 16th Street, which leads to Lafayette Park and, of course, the White House, the area where on Monday peaceful protesters were aggressively cleared to make room for Donald Trump's photo op in front of a church. D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser officially renaming that particular section of the street Black Lives Matter Plaza. Those symbols of peace and the right to protest stand in stark contrast to the increased federal policing D.C. has seen there this week, where tanks drove down the streets, helicopters flew low to deter protesters, and unidentified federal officers patrol the streets. The mayor spoke about this last night with our friend Rachel Maddow.
Because of our lack of statehood, the federal government can encroach on our city streets in the name of protecting federal assets. And so that's what's been done here. I think it's unprecedented that state troopers from other states have been brought into the district, and these unnamed other federal police officers. And you make a very good
we're way
point.
too separated.
We know some of the agencies who are here. We don't know why they don't have any identifying marks, and none of them should be armed.
Joining us now, 2 people who advise this country's top law enforcement agency about the law. Former FBI General Counsel Andrew Weissman, and we're very happy to welcome to our network Lisa Page, former FBI lawyer who worked as special counsel for Robert Mueller's legal team. She worked on the Russian government disinformation probe and on the Hillary Clinton email investigation, both, lucky for us, MSNBC analysts. Andrew, let me start with you. There are so many questions from people who know nothing about law enforcement or the law about how it is even legal for unidentified federal law enforcement somethings, agents, officials to be roaming the streets of D.C. What is the answer to that?
So, I'm going to give you a lawyer's answer, which is
now
it
they are dead. Good for you.
The first issue is this idea that they're unidentified.
GG, good job, guys.
Taking my role as the
was awful.
FBI General Counsel, I would need to know
absolutely awful. That's dangerous.
Are being asked to do something because there's limited legal authority at the federal level to be taking action. And one of the problems with the Attorney General saying, we're not identifying these people, is that each agency has a general counsel that needs to assess the legality.
There's another win. Look at that. We're so close to Planet 5. Probably won't get it.